Hi Jane, I thought I'd just send you a quick film really, trying to reflect on the project as a whole and on your incredible work as an artist. Firstly, I'd like to start with that workshop that I did at the Thought Foundation with you in Berkeley, where I didn't tell you I was an art teacher. And I sat there being very nervous, as I imagine my students are at the start of a workshop or a class, and you presented your ideas and your work, and I was absolutely bowled over by your kindness and your intuitiveness in getting the group to be really open about the marks they were making on the page and to create this astonishing myriad of layers of marks responding to the stimulus that you've given to us. I loved listening to the way that you were talking about your own practice, about how you build up the history of an animal's habitat and connecting that with the history of cinema, with social, economic, political histories of violence, histories of where animals are being treated in ways that you wouldn't want them to be treated. Really highlighting a history of a breakdown between the relationship between animals and people. And that seems to be quite central to your work. And the fact that you were able to show your beautiful drawings to us and give us a critique of your own work alongside encouraging us to respond to your work and also to our own ideas and our own opinions about this idea of endangered animals. I think the partnership that you made on that day and in the other workshops were very strong partnerships. The lady who was sitting next to me hadn't done any drawing since she was a very young girl, and the astonishing memory it gave me of my own childhood, of being absorbed in doing a drawing and really loving the quietness, the stillness, the different energy that making a drawing for a long time actually makes you feel. It makes you feel differently about yourself. It makes you seek something within yourself that is quite different from perhaps other ways of working and other ways of being. And on that note really, I think seeing you then back in school, because I was quite sure on that day that you would bring something very special to my students, and indeed when you did these incredible workshops with not only the year sixes in my school but right up through to the upper six, and you had this wealth of, again, kindness and an intuitive way of bringing out the best in students. Your knowledge of your materials and the way that you pass that knowledge on is really captivating, and it's not only showing that you know your materials and that you have a passion for them, but it also makes the students, and I know because I was one of them, makes the students want to do more work to understand their materials better. And that doesn't just go for the biro that you presented to us as a very simple everyday material. I think the philosophy of understanding your materials and understanding the ideas within a piece of work that can knit together to make a narrative, that does include research, it does include looking at film and the cinematic, it does include the composition and the options to have a change in scale. You talked a lot in your workshop about this idea of having space, of having a white space, having areas where there was no biro on the work, and that's been an incredibly important bit of advice really for my own work as an artist teacher, but also it's one of those things that I pass on to my students. when they're working and struggling with trying to get a lot of information in just one area. So I'm hugely grateful really for the variety of advice that you gave me in those workshops, and I'm very sure that our success this year in the students' work has been really enhanced by this commitment that you have to spending time drawing, to spending time developing your ideas, and to creating this intensity that you have. And those are qualities that I really, really want to pass on in my teaching. I think we're in a time now where Britain is a multi-billion-pound success in terms of how we bring the creative industries, how we make money, how our economy works, and it's largely down to creative industries. I think we're hugely successful, and that's on the back of the kind of upbringing that I had, where we had art right through the junior school, and it was part of the joy of being in junior school to play with materials and to experiment and put things together, and to have your own vocabulary as well, not to make things for an adult to show, but to make drawings for yourself, to make the narratives meaningful for you as a child growing up. And lots of children don't get that now. I know that because I've been involved in a national study working with Nottingham University, where the picture of education in Britain sometimes doesn't include art. And I can't imagine that. I cannot imagine a junior school child growing up without this incredible richness that connects at a time when your imagination is at its most open and most alive. And then that manifests itself later in adulthood, where you can match those original ideas and motivations and flights of fancy with opportunities to make money and have innovative businesses. I don't think we're looking after that sense of the early years and the importance of the imagination and the importance of collective drawing experiences. And just like we're doing with the endangered species that you're so passionate about, we're reducing their chance of survival, and I think that's happening to our art education as well. And that's why projects like this one are so important, where the artist, you, is at the real heart. You are the hub of what has happened in these 10 schools. You've brought your philosophy to and your incredible work to all of those schools, and then out of that has come the idea of creating a symposium and an exhibition which lots more people will come to and engage in, and in due time, all of those students will go back home and perhaps will again start drawing at the family table, or start drawing when the telly's on, or start drawing when the summer holiday drags a bit, or perhaps encourages drawing as an activity that can go alongside social media and be also passed on through social media too. So I think it's incredibly important what you're doing, and it's been a great learning curve for everybody, and I think if we can get more grassroots exhibitions like this, if we can get more hearts and minds approaches where the materials that we're using are very simple materials, but the ideas are expansive and they have a passion to them, then I think we're helping the next generation to really forge ahead with being creative. And you never know, I mean, there have been so many experiences with this project, not least me staring at a camera has meant that my technician has learnt how to use a camera. I've learnt how not to stand in front of a camera and where to stand, and I've learnt about light. I've learnt about how courageous students are when I asked them to be part of a symposium panel which consists of adults. I've learnt all sorts of new skills. I've made lots of new friends. I've made lots of new acquaintances across the region, and really we're all singing from the same sheet. We all want the best for the next generation, and as an artist teacher, I think one of the best starts in life is to begin with perhaps the artist and simple materials, and to be able to create work that is meaningful and that tells a message that we want to pass on. So I hope this has been helpful to you. Thank you very much. Well done. It's been marvellous being involved.